Good morning. Times are tough. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. If you're doom scrolling and you're watching this video, you're probably no exception. Did you ever wonder how you can make things better? How you can make things easier? I mean, we're all looking for that life hack. We're all looking for some kind of easy button. I am. I mean, that's human condition, right? I want you to consider something. I had a question from someone that I was ministering to not long ago, and they asked about a tithe. What is a tithe? Now, a tithe is a biblical term for 10% of all you own. That's your time, your talents, uh, your money. For us, it's money. We have translated out of the barter system for which the Bible was written in, and that was I'll give you 3 goats and a calf for 70 jugs of olive oil. That was the barter system. When the Bible was written, the way that things were tithed is you quite literally counted off 10 things and you took the one best thing out of that 10 and you gave that. The question came up, and I'm going to address this here in the book of Malachi. There's when you give to God, when people were making sacrifices, why did people burn those? And keep in mind, theologians, PhD theologians, will write entire dissertations on the topic of sacrifice. So, for you, I just want you to know this. When you give a sacrifice to God, 2 things have to happen. Number one, you cannot use it. You have to give it up, and it cannot be of use to you. Because if you have use of it, are you really giving it up? And the second thing is that you have to ensure that you are giving in your heart. You actually want to give it up. Because if you don't want to give it up and you're just kind of, giving it away, well, that's not a cheerful giver. You're not really giving it. You're more or less being coerced to give it. Now, back in the day, and I had some questions on this too. Back in the day, you would burn that sacrifice. Again, PhD dissertations. So the short and sweet is think of fire as being able to satisfy one of those requirements. Fire is how things translate from this dimension of existence to the spiritual realm. And you can't use the ashes. I mean, when you kill the animal, you obviously can't use it, but you could still eat it. And so to burn it, you're really, truly making it this a very final thing. And in the book of Malachi, basically God is rebuking Judea, or the Jews, the Hebrews, and he's saying, hey, you're giving me blind animals, you're giving me lame animals. Would you even give that to your governor? Because keep in mind, this is when there was conquerors that had governed Israel. Would you give that to a governor? Well, no. No, because that governor would say, why are you giving me this lame, blind donkey? I can't use that. Well, in the same way, God is saying, why would you try and give me this useless animal? That's number one. It's not a cheerful giver. Number two, there's no real sacrifice here. There's not a faith sacrifice where you're saying, hey, God, I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to trust that you're going to take care of me. And so after God is done rebuking them, and this is out of Malachi 3, by the way, after God's done rebuking them and he says, hey, don't give me these crap sacrifices. I want a real sacrifice. I want you to really trust me. I want to be your dad. I want to love you. I want to have the respect. In fact, here it says, and I have it in my notes, it says Malachi 1:6, a son honors his father and servants their master. If I am a father, where is the honor? And if I am a master, where is the respect? And so basically he's saying that, hey, you guys, essentially, you're being jerks. And you're being completely false. So your face says, hey, I love God. Your actions at church say, hey, I love God. But your faith action, what you're actually using to back that up, it has no respect, it has no honor. So in Malachi 3, God basically reaffirms and he says, look, if you bring me a good sacrifice, I will repay. And so, starting in 3 and verse 8, it says, will anyone rob God? Yet you are robbing me. But you say, how are we robbing you? And God answers, in your tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for your robbing me, the whole nation of you. Now, again, we could get into dissertation level theology here, but your actions as a group, because it wasn't just one person giving bad sacrifices, it was somebody giving bad sacrifices and somebody else looking the other way. And that's really important. The whole nation of you. Nobody stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. Don't do that. And God goes on in 3 verse 10, bring the full tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be food in my house, and thus put me to the test. So the Bible says, you shall not test the Lord thy God. Well, that's true, but that's referring to, hey, God, can you can you pick up that mountain and move it? God's not a magician. He doesn't do children's parties. So what this is saying is, I want you to test how faithful I can be back to you. You give me your heart, and I will show you how much I can give you back. And so it goes on to say, test me and see if I will not open the windows of heaven for you and pour out a blessing. Now, it goes on to say, I'll rebuke the locust, I will make your crops grow, I will make you the vines in your fields plentiful, and the nations will respect and revere you. So what God is saying is, I want you to trust me. I want you to give me your best, and in turn, I will give you my best. Now, we need to address a few things here. It says, bring your full tithe into the storehouse. This is really important. Back in the day, the synagogue, the church, was the social system. We didn't have the Department of Child and Family Services. We didn't have welfare. We didn't have SNAP or food stamps or whatever you want to call it. We didn't have any of that. They had the church. If you were hungry, you went to the church and said, hey, I'm on some pretty hard times. Can you give me some food? And so when God is saying bring to the storehouse, he is literally saying bring to the storehouse so that the hungry and the naked can be fed and clothed. All right, so what does that have to do with anything today, right? I'm really glad you asked. Here we go. Over in Matthew chapter 25, people are asking Jesus, they say, well, what can we do? How can we give you gifts? I mean, we want to repay you back. Like, you're healing us and you're preaching and like life is good with you, dude. We want to give you something back. And I want you to keep in mind, I say this a lot, Jesus was God in a meat suit, okay? So keep that in mind. It's the Father coming down into flesh and walking around the world. And so Jesus says, I want you to feed the hungry. Give the thirsty water. When you see a stranger and you didn't welcome them, you're not welcoming me. Visit the people in prison. Take care of the sick. Basically, when you do good to the least of these, and what Jesus was saying, the least of these, the least of society. You got to remember, back in the day, there was a major caste system. In fact, in most of the world today, still, there is a caste system. And even in the U.S. here, you go walking down the street and you see somebody sitting on a street corner that is obviously homeless and sucking out of a bottle and just drunk off their butt. You're going to tell me there's not a caste system? Are you kidding me? And so Jesus says, when you do to the least of these, when you heal the wounds, and when you address these people, when you love on these people, you're doing it to me. Okay, now back to Malachi. It says, take your offerings into the storehouse. That's because the church was feeding people. And so Jesus follows up on what God said in Malachi. And he says, I want you to take care of your brethren. I want you to take care of your sisters. And I got news for you. We're all humans. We're all brothers and sisters. Whether we're Christian or not, it doesn't matter. We're all important, and it is not the will of the Father that anyone should perish. And so by that, you can know that it is our job to take care of people. And if you're not doing that, if you're not actually giving to take care of someone, and you're giving out of a cheerful heart, I'm telling you right now, as the Lord lives, I promise you this. You're giving up blessings. You're giving up major blessings. My wife and I, we cannot afford to not tithe. So how do you do it today? How do you tithe today? How do you get these blessings? Number one, it comes from a good place in your heart. You need to know, and test the Lord on this. I promise you, test the Lord. You need to know that when you give, God's going to give back more than you put in. That's how he works. He's going to bless you. He may not hand you a check. Say you put in $100 and he may not hand you a check for $500, but I guarantee when you go to the store, you're going to find deals on food, or people are going to bring you meals. Someone's going to say, oh yeah, well, we had this extra part laying around for your car repair, and we're not going to charge you for it because it's already been paid for. That happens to us all the time. We can't afford to not tithe. Now, I'll do a different video. This one's getting a little bit long. On how do you know where to tithe? How do you know when that money is really going to be used for the kingdom of God? How do you know who to give to and who not to give to? I'll address that in another video. Until then, I hope this finds you well. I love you. Have a good day.